Alright guys, so today we're going to be doing a top end rebuild on this 2001 YZ125. I'm just going to run through pretty much putting the cylinder on, installing stuff like the wrist pin, the circlips, and I got a proaxle piston here. And I'm going to make it really quick just for you guys that aren't looking for a 10-minute video explaining this process. Check your ring end gap here, which is going to be done by putting this ring into the cylinder and then using the top of the piston like so, placing it into the cylinder and pushing it down before the ports. And you're going to take a feeler gauge and you're going to feel in between that gap there. The camera will focus. And you should have, it depends on the manufacturer and it depends on the piston and whatnot. But for me, I'm looking for at least 0.018 inches. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to put in here is your wrist pin bearing. This is going to sit right in the top of your crank, and you're going to want to get some 2-stroke oil. Doesn't really matter what oil, because this is not what I'm putting in my gas to run the bike. This is just what I'm using to give it a little bit of lubrication before I actually do start running it. So I'm just running this Lucas here, and I'm just going to put a bit on my finger and then put it on the inside and outside of that bearing. Okay, now that I've got this all lubed up, the next step is you're going to take your piston, and here I've just got a Pro-X. You're going to take your ring, which is in that red box for me, and you're going to put it right on the top of this piston. Okay, once you have your ring in, make sure that those little grooves, the ends, line up with that pin there. You don't want those slipping out. It has to be like this so it's properly seated. Also, make sure you check your ring direction. This ring has no direction on it. There will normally be a dot or some sort of lettering. And I believe, do not quote me on this, but I believe the lettering should always face up. Alright, the next thing you're going to want to do, take one of your circlips here, and you're going to pop it into either side of the piston there. It really doesn't matter which, but only do one side. Okay, now that you've inserted your circlip and made sure that it is in the groove, and the end is pointed away from this little cutout here, then you can go ahead and put your wrist pin through and stick it on your rod. Okay, once you have lubed the wrist pin and you've slipped it through, then all you have left to do as far as the piston is insert your last circlip just like you did the first one, but it's a little harder because it's on the bike this time. Okay, now you have your second circlip in. It's pointed about 180 degrees, the open end. Come on, focus, please, camera. There you go. 180 degrees from the opening there. That way you don't risk it coming out as much, or you could put it facing all the way down. And you stuffed a rag in the bottom end, luckily, which kept you from dropping your circlip in the bottom end and then having to pull the cases apart. So you made it this far. Now, pretty much the last step, if you are replacing this cylinder base gasket with a new one, great on you. I'm a little too cheap, and this one is still in fine condition, so I'm going to leave it. But the last step really is to just lube up the piston, lube up the inside of the cylinder, and slide it on. Oh, and your arrow should be pointing towards where your exhaust manifold is. All done.